to Breaking Par with Bernard Sheridan, the golf instruction podcast that helps you take control of your game. Now, here's your host, the founder of Par Breakers Golf Academy and certified Golf Channel Swing Fix instructor, Bernard Sheridan.
So, David, welcome to Breaking Par. Thanks so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us today.
My pleasure, Bernard. Nice to be with you.
So, congratulations on Lydia Ko getting #1. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's very exciting. She's an amazing young woman. She really is. I mean, when I say young woman, she's really almost a junior when you think in terms she's 17 years of age. But she's, she certainly exceeded my expectations. I knew somewhere along the line that probably this #1 would come about, but I had no idea it would come so quickly. And so her level of consistency is just amazing. And people ask me what's her greatest strength. I said her greatest strength really doesn't have any weaknesses. I mean, she's a straight hit of the ball. She's actually put on about 10 or 15 yards since probably this time last year. Combination, I think, swing, getting stronger. She works out with our workout physiologist, Trevor Anderson. She's got a new Callaway driver in the bag. And so I think a combination of all these things, she's starting to hit it 10 or 15 yards longer. So great iron player, wonderful short game, great putting touch. So she's really got it all, and just a fantastic temperament too.
Are there specific things that you were working with her on at the beginning of the season? You know, to get prepared for this first, the coming out of the gate here for the, for this new season?
Well, actually, she took a month off, more by design than by accident. She really had some wrist issues at the end of last year, so she had a lot of acupuncture, some treatment on her wrist. So she took a month off. So she was a little rusty when she came back, because I don't think in her young career she's ever actually had a month off. So she was a little, hey, well, I wonder how this is going to work out. And I said, listen, it's not a bad thing, because if you're going to have a long career, you've got to pace yourself. So she's did a great job. I'm working on the little things we worked on over the excuse me, over the winter break. She ostensibly, we just got her back on track, and people say, well, are you making continual changes? No, we've really made the changes. Now it's just a matter of her keeping on doing them. And ostensibly, she's actually now, her swing's a little more compact. It's a little more economical, efficient, if you want to call it that. And she is able to draw the ball now. That's a big thing. She was always a bit of a fader of the ball. And so we've got the club face in a much more neutral position. And so she's drawing the ball, and a combination of these things, she came out of the box really hot.
When you did that with her, David, was it more an adjustment in grip, or was it essentially an adjustment in setup or club position at address?
Combination. Grip. We changed the grip somewhat. We also made her swing. Excuse me, I've got a bit of a cold here today. We actually simplified her swing to a point where she had, she used to tend to have a little too much width in her swing. She got the club a little too far around her. So there's a little lift at the top combined with a very weak grip, but the club face a little shut. So what we basically did was we strengthened the grip, got the club on a slightly steeper plane going back, and which shortened the arm swing, got the club face in a much, much better position at the top. So she was able to go ahead and release the club. And this sort of, Bernard, we've got a new initiative coming out called the A-swing. And she exhibits a lot of the traits that we talk about in this A-swing. And essentially, the A-swing is about synchronizing your arms and your body better. And so she's really done a great job with that. And it's amazing how through synchronizing your swing better, the positions actually change. So synchronizing really means how your arms and your body sort of work in harmony. Most people, they tend to either overuse the body, overuse the arms, and trying to get that right blend is key. So this new initiative, the A-swing, which A stands for alternative, which a book is coming out in May, We've worked it with, we've done 2 years of study with it, with players from beginner to tour player level. In fact, just prior to us coming on Skype here, one of the players who actually is the model in the book, who's on the web.com, his name's Ryan Blom, who had an amazingly consistent year last year. Unfortunately, got injured towards the end of the year, tore his labrum, and he finished, I think, about 31st on the money list, so just outside the top 25. But amazingly consistent, just really changed things around. And it's an evolution of what I've always believed in a golf swing. Going back to sort of my Nick Price and Nick Faldo days, things that I worked on, it's an evolution and an extension of that. And it's just a much easier way for people to swing the golf club. And it's, the motto is minimal practice, maximum benefit. And with Ryan Blom, who's had some injuries, he doesn't have to practice as much. And, he literally, this was the first session we've had since he had his surgery about 5 months ago. And at the end of an hour, he was really pretty much back where he was to start with. So that's what I'm excited about. And so with Lydia, she exhibits a lot of the traits that we talk about in this A swing, and some of the greats through the years, even Jack Nicklaus, have traits of this A swing. And essentially, it's about having a steeper backswing to have a shallower downswing. Because in a sense, if you think about it, Bernard, think how much instruction is based in golf on the backswing. How to get the club back. I mean, you think of other sports, everything is about going towards the target. Now we're talking about going backwards, getting ready to hit the ball. So I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to figure out that maybe the backswing is too difficult for a lot of people to get consistent. Now, if you're a tour player, tremendous talent, great hand-eye coordination, hit millions of balls, sure, you can make a lot of things work. And, if you've got an Adam Scott type swing, why would you want to change it? I mean, he's so well synchronized, it's great. But anybody who has a problem with synchronizing, even a lot of tour players do. That's why their consistency level is not as good as it should be. I think one of Tiger's big issues personally is that his swing is out of sync a lot of times, especially with the driver. When I say out of sync, if you want to know what sync is, look at how many players you get a video going and you look from a face-on angle and see when a person's completed their body rotation, how many extra frames do they have to complete the backswing with their arms. And a lot of times, 2 or 3 is fine because that's centrifugal force at work. But if your hands and arms are just lifting to finish your backswing, as you start down, your body really doesn't know where the club is, or your brain doesn't know where the club is. So you make all these sort of compensations. And hey, a lot of great players do make good compensations, but a lot of average players don't have the skill level to do that. So we're really excited about this whole initiative. And as I say, it comes with a 7-minute practice plan where people can actually work indoors with a little mini club. They don't actually have to hit balls, and they can actually develop the feel. So when they go out and play, which is the ultimate, you don't have to overthink about your technique because, as I say, we know that most people suffer from paralysis by analysis.
That's very true. I find a lot of students have that problem, and when they can do it without thinking, just let the motion happen, they have a much better chance of hitting the ball.
And the other thing, and this is really great for senior golfers, a lot of senior golfers, hey, they might have played to a reasonable ability at one stage, but they get frustrated as they get older. They're losing distance. They're just not having a lot of fun and basically quit the game, which is sad. When the people sort of probably have the time to actually focus on playing golf, they're not enjoying it anymore. So we've seen some tremendous benefits with senior players, even with juniors who sort of get way ahead of the arm. So to me, synchronization is all the key. I say to people with this A swing, is it going to help and fix everybody? Definitely not. But will the theme of the A swing help everybody? Definitely yes.
Great. That's wonderful. So I'm sure that our listeners are very in anticipation to get their hands on this book. So it's
interesting, better because Golf Digest are really going to give this a big push. They really haven't had a huge push on instruction, maybe a little bit with the stack and tilt a few years ago. There's such a convincing argument, and I've had this all tested by one of the world's leading biomechanists who say, hey, this is one of the most efficient ways of swinging. Everybody has tried it, basically, without exception, said, man, this feels so natural, because there's a little bit of baseball in this action. And if you look at, there's a little bit maybe of a Jim Furyk or a Ryan Moore look about it. And my favorite swing of all time, people sort of laugh when I say this, actually was Calvin Peete. Calvin Peete was one of the most amazing players. He really didn't know a whole lot about what he did. He was a field player, but he started golf in his early 20s, I believe. And he became just, a supreme player through the fact that he led the driving statistics, fairways hit that is, for 10 years in a row. He led greens in regulation, I think, for 6 of those 10 years. And I mean, he didn't have all the power in the world. So, my goal is to ultimately produce a Calvin Peete with power, because if you can get that combination going, you hit 85% of the fairways and you're hitting it long. I mean, there's not too many courses are going to, trouble you.
That's true. So you mentioned biomechanics. So is that something that you incorporate in your instruction program?
We do, yes. In fact, in the book, there's a whole chapter on the biomechanics specifically for the A-swing. But I've been working on, I know it's a buzzword now with Tiger using it, and
right.
Whether it be successful, time will tell. But it really is. It's a study of motion and movement. Yeah, we use force plates here at our Champions Gate Academy. And this friend of mine whose name's J.J. Rivet, who's at our academy in France, in the south of France, down near Cannes, he works with all sorts of different athletes. And it's very interesting how you look at a player and you see how efficient or inefficient they are, and you develop a little program, and it could be simple as stretching, or maybe strengthening certain areas, or even maybe making adjustments to the stance in order to accommodate maybe a problem they have. But it's all about, biomechanics is all about, say, the study of movement, and it's the internal movement that takes place. In other words, how energy transfers from one part of the body to the next. In golf, from the lower to the upper, to the arm, to the hands, to the club. That kinetic chain, as it's called. And if you can get that kinetic chain working efficiently, you're going to hit the ball pretty solidly, that's for sure. And so some players are more efficient than others. I remember years ago we did a biomechanics test with Nick Price. This is back in the 90s now, when he was #1 in the world, and sort of a younger Ernie Els. And by far and away, Ernie was the most efficient out of the two. But yet, if you listen to the strike with Nick, and he has a couple of little compensations in his swing, and he was #1 in the world. So it's not to say your biomechanics have to be perfect, but I think we look at in today's age too of making a swing which is, I think this is probably the line that Tiger's on, making a swing that's reasonably easy on the body. Okay, because I say this is not long drive contest. You look at those guys. I mean, that's a different sport. And so this is a case of keeping yourself healthy, and not only the tour players, but the average golfer who wants to have back pain and knee pain and wrist pain and so on and so forth. So if you can find an easier way to swing, that's why I'm excited about the A-swing, because it really does incorporate a lot of the biomechanics that I believe in. And in fact, this friend of mine, J.J. Rivet, he said, listen, in all his testing, he's never found a simpler approach. I don't want to call it a method, it's an approach, because it does have, there is some flexibility. You don't have to be perfect to do this. It just, the more efficient you are, obviously the more consistent you're likely to be. It's simply based on that.
Now, there's a lot of controversy going on right now since with technology and things like that. And how much are you really using technology in your instruction with players across the board? And how do you feel it helps you, I guess what I want to say here is, get to the meat of the problem more efficiently?
Well, I think technology is wonderful if it's used judiciously. And we had a big, at the show, there was a Teachers Hall of Fame, and teachers got together and we gave seminars and what have you. And I was very much proposing the fact that, listen, that young teachers need to learn to use instinct as well, because obviously the older teachers in my era, we didn't have video and all the mod cons that you do. I always like to say there, Bernard, in the old days it was just my opinion, your swing sucked. Today we can prove your swing sucks. That's basically the difference. So, we have all the ability to analyze golf swings and to dissect and bisect them, but how is it simpler for the average golfer? I mean, it's nice. I mean, we use it tremendously from an analysis standpoint initially, whether it be TrackMan or force plates or K-Vest or whatever the case may be. You take some numbers. I mean, then once you've worked with the player, you look at, okay, let's see the improvement. Because a lot of times a player, they might hit a couple of good shots, but we know we're all perfectionists. They'd love to hit every shot perfectly. And so essentially you can look at the numbers and say, hey, look, you're making some progress here. A slicer, for instance, if he's 14 degrees from the outside and you bring him down to 4 degrees from the outside, but he still hits the odd slice, at least, I mean, you're making progress there. So it's a wonderful way of being able to quantify what's going on. But you have to use it in a way that it helps the individual you're teaching. I mean, to us, it's a tool. I mean, as I said to people, I said, out there, the crowd, I said, all these great teachers, Butch Harmon and Jim Hardy's and Chuck Cooks and everybody else, I said, they don't need video and all the computers and launch monitors to actually help a player. I mean, it helps to back up what we say, and I think it gives people a point of reference. And we know young people these days are much more into technology. And, I've got involved with a technology company called Epson, a new company, well, not a new company, but they've got a new product. Epson being from Japan, make the biggest printer company in the world, but they've got this little gizmo called M-Tracer, which you can actually fit on your shaft. It's like a mini TrackMan. And so it gives you 80% of what TrackMan does. So it's nice if I have a student and I say, listen, these are the numbers. Okay, so when you go out and practice, just check on this just to make sure you're there or thereabouts. And so it's a way of me not being there, but actually having a presence, so to speak. So from that standpoint, it's really good. But I think, the problem I see with a lot of young teachers now, everything is so analytical, and you throw numbers at people and angles, and it's D-planes and what have you. I mean, look, we're trying to make this game simpler. I mean, it's horrifying to sports psychologists when they hear all this, because they're trying to get people to keep their mind clear, not to make them more active. So you just cannot go out there and think of so much stuff. Especially the problem today, people have less time to play and practice. So that's why, you've got to get the message across quickly. And that's why I say I'm excited about this ACE swing, because it does get the message across quickly. We see people have literally immediate improvement. And if you can quantify that improvement, so much the better. And I think that's how technology should be used.
Sure. Speaking of practice, what is the average that you suggest a player to put time in to work on a weekly basis? I know it's tough with the way people's lives are today, because it seems like everybody has got something going on all the time. No matter what level of a player they are, whether they're just a weekend warrior or whether they're a tour pro, they always have tons of stuff that they have to do, and they don't really have as much time. But as a suggestion for our listeners out there, what would be the minimum average that you would like to see players work on their game?
Well, it's an all-encompassing question, obviously. I mean, you get people that never practice and play great. I mean, they just have a couple of warm-up swings and off they go. I think for most people, certainly if they can spend some time on their short game, because that's the thing you lose. I mean, you have to look at Tiger, and you can see how, if you lose your short game, it just sends ripples right through the rest of your game. But I think ideally, look, if you're going to go out and practice for an hour, say, at least spend half your time on your short game in some form or shape, putting, chipping, bunker play, whatever. And you should get to a point where I always feel that if you're really feeling comfortable with your swing, I always remember the great Byron Nelson telling me when he won 11 tournaments in a row, he never hit a practice ball. I said, why was that, Mr. Nelson? He said, well, I didn't want to lose the feel. So there's a situation where sometimes too much practice, some people, if they don't practice with a purpose, they can work through into things. And so it's good, I think. We try to design practice programs for individuals depending on their time, the time they've got available, depending on what they're trying to do, what they're trying to achieve. So I think it varies from player to player. But look, if you can get out there and chip and putt, and I always say, hey, listen, that's part of this, getting back to the A swing again, this 7-minute program, you can do these little swing exercises indoors without a club, and I really believe you can make progress doing that. So you can't always go out and hit balls, especially if you're up north in the winter. But hey, keep the body loose, do a bit of stretching, get swinging, because it's all, in the end, it's all about building a feel. So I know it's a long-winded answer there, because I don't think there's any shortcut to say, yeah, you need to practice, 2 hours a day, 5 days a week in order to see benefits. Because I've seen people who have had benefits just practicing 1 hour a week, and on the other hand, I've seen people get worse who've been practicing 3 hours a day, 6-7 days a week. So there's no right or wrong answer, I don't believe. You've got to find something for yourself, but you've got to put some time in just to keep a feel for what you're doing, so when you go out and play, you don't overthink. Yeah,
no, I totally agree with that, and I know that I like that you said work on the short game, or at least give that half of the time. Like, as you said, we're seeing with Tiger and things like that. I don't know really what's going on with Tiger, or whether he's devoting more time to that or not. I'm sure he is right now, for the fact that that's really what his woes were at this waste management event. But for the average player, they can't get enough of that short game and around the green type stuff in putting because they're saving a lot of strokes. And I think that a lot of them worry too much about the full swing.
Oh, no, absolutely. And listen, if you can practice with a friend and have a little competition going, I mean, because putting's boring to a lot of people. I mean, they hit a few putts. What do? I mean, all right, pros are disciplined. They normally have a practice regimen they follow and use certain maybe little drills or teaching aids to sort of help them get the feel. But I mean, if you want to go out there and compete, get a friend out there and, play for 10 cents a shot or something and pitch shots and hit bunker shots and go and putt and just keep things interesting. Keep it. I mean, we do that with kids because, I mean, kids sometimes get bored. I mean, we know short game is so important, but, it's probably more fun out there smashing drivers out there a long way,
Now, here's a quick question on more of your tour type players that you work with. How many of them are really practicing when they do practice on uneven lies and things like that, as opposed to just on a flat surface like on the range?
Well, I think the thing is, what a lot of the pros will do, they'll go out on the golf course. Their course at home. I remember speaking to Matt Kuchar and a couple of the guys. I've done a lot of Cadillac clinics over the last couple of years with them, and they like to go out on the golf course. Lydia does this a lot. She just take a cart out there and hit shots from different positions there. Fairway bunkers, which probably she didn't practice quite enough of this last week. That's why she hit a poor one coming into the 17th hole. But just hitting shots from different lies, and especially around the green, getting all the variations. Because most short game areas probably are not as good as the course itself. So go out late in the day, take a cart, or even just walk and take a bag of clubs and hit 2 or 3 balls from different areas, as long as you're not holding anybody up. That's a great way to practice. You just practicing on the golf course is one thing, and practicing on the practice tee is another. So one tends to get a little bit mechanical in that regard.
I totally agree. I mean, I think that the majority of players who, when they do practice and just practice on the range, at least with the players that I teach, I try to get them to more work on their drills or things like that on the range, and Absolutely. Then go out and practice as much as they can on the golf course. Take 2 or 3 balls, maybe play your best ball or play your worst ball on a hole, and see how you do it, to see if you're in different situations and how you can get out of them and get a little bit more imaginative out there.
Right, variety. Variety is the spice of life, and I think it's very key in improving your golf game too. So,
and that would come under the kind of like random practice then, correct? So the more they do things at random as opposed to just a regimented the exact same thing, or
I remember with Nick Faldo years ago, we used to just get a shag bag and I used to throw them everywhere. So, okay, come on, we're going to play up and down. I mean, a great little game as you play. It's called Moment of Truth, which a lot of people could play. You basically get to a point where you can you have the first balls, you chip 2 balls from the same spot. First ball's chip and putt for birdie. The second ball, chip and putt for par, and just see what you score. It's a great way of doing it. So you bring your chipping and your putting into play.
Now that type of practice, I would think too, for the average player, is just going to be a lot more fun because it's not just the same thing.
I'm going to take a 5-second break here, Bernard, because I've just got this call from New Zealand. And guys, I'll call you back in a few minutes, or you call me back in about 10, 15 minutes. Oh, I'm not sure if they're there. Okay, all right. All right, sorry about that. So I've got all these calls coming from New Zealand about Lydia. She's their national hero over there. So I mean, all sorts of out. I think they're 16 hours ahead of us. So let me just get them. Excuse me, I don't mean to be rude. Hello there. I'll call you. Call me in 15 minutes. Sorry, I'm just on a Skype call. I'll be right with you. Call me in 15 minutes. Yeah, sure. Okay, thanks, guys. Okay. Hope it's not raining in New Zealand. Thank you. Always busy, So
my gosh, you got to be tremendously busy. So especially since Lydia is now #1, and that's another thing that just brings you right back up to the forefront. You're always at the forefront, David, and it's It's great to see your great. And I know that I met you once previously at the show a couple of years ago, and I mentioned to you then, and you probably don't remember because you meet so many people, but you're great inspiration to so many people because of all the things that you do and to help golf and at such a high level, you're such a personable person, and that's really nice to see.
Thank you very much. Well, it's been a great journey. I mean, as I say, I'm 62 now, which I find it hard to believe because time has just flown, and you see your kids grow up and go to college and what have you, and I still have I just love what I do. It's a passion of mine to help people, and I think any young teacher gets in the game. Yeah, there may be a little glory, a little fame along the way, but in the end, it's like, to me, my satisfaction, my reward has always been helping people reach their potential, no matter what level of player they are. It's just a lot of fun. I mean, it really is. It's never been like a job to me, this. So it's always a case because everything it's so different, and we seem to. Although golf, I mean, look, it's not like medicine or anything of this nature, or building bridges. I mean, people say, "Wow, you're a golf instructor." That's true, but I think we bring a lot of enjoyment to people's lives. I mean, when you get somebody playing good golf, I always say, listen. It's amazing how people's attitudes are good when they're playing playing a sport well, particularly playing golf. And we all know that sometimes you can hit the highs and very often we hit the lows. But if you can help people with their attitudes, I mean, as I say, seldom do you see people who've played a great round of golf go home and kick the dog. It's like their attitude's good, and it's I mean, it's funny how it affects all of us in a lot of different ways. It shouldn't do, but golf is just. I think it's just that sort of sport. It's fascinating, really.
Well, I totally agree. Do you believe that that's your greatest asset as an instructor, or what would you mark as your greatest asset as an instructor and in your success? Is it your personable ability to communicate with people and to link with them easily?
Yeah, I suppose, my grandfather was one of Britain's leading osteopaths. He was blind. He was blinded. He got blind in the First World War. I mean, it's a long time ago now. And so, but he had tremendous touch and feel. Everyone was telling him he died before I was born. But he and they said maybe some of those genetics went through, to his grandson. But I don't know. I have my instincts, a lot of times I'll teach them when I have my teachers watching me and say, why'd you do that? And I actually have to think why I did that. It's almost sort of an intuitive, instinctive thing. And yes, it's nice to have video and it backs up what we say. But a lot of times, as I say, this friend of mine, this biomechanist says, you're very fortunate. He told me this 20 years ago when I first met him. He said, you have biomechanical eyes. I said, what is that? He said, well, you're able to sum up and analyze what's causing what. And I think that's important in golf, because a lot of times, people are always trying to cure the effect. You've got to get to the root cause of the problem. And just being able to, I mean, I've studied a lot. I mean, I understand anatomy, and you can see what works and what doesn't work. And you can pretty much sum up just watching somebody tee the ball up, what sort of player you're dealing with and what probably approach you're going to have. And you sort of do this in a very short space of time as well. So I think it's something that maybe you have as a talent, but obviously you can learn a lot about it. I mean, we've had a lot of teachers who I would say are more, have a mechanical approach, and it's like all done by the numbers, and they're very good teachers. But I think if you're going to be a really great teacher, you have to be able to ebb and flow and be able to connect with a lot of different people who have different body type, different mindsets, different goals, and put that all in the mix and sort of come up with something which hopefully will be able to help them play better in the long run, or even in the short run for that matter.
Totally agree. Well, David, I know you're very busy, and so we're coming to the end here, and I'd like to thank you so much for taking the time out of your incredibly busy schedule, and congratulations on all your success, and we're all looking forward to that new book, The A Game. So we're hanging on the edge of our seat.
I would say, Bernard, if you want to play your A game, look at this A swing, and they can go to leadbetteraswing.com if you want some notification about when it's coming out and some testimonials and some teasers on there too. So leadbetteraswing.com. Some of your listeners might want to have a look at that. So it's going to be fun, and hey, it'll be a little controversial, which is fine. But hey, it's all about, hey, can we get people to play better golf, get more people playing the game and enjoying the game, and hey, it's going to be good for all of us.
That's great. And if they want to get in touch with you to do a lesson with your staff, how would they do that?
Well, they can go on to davidleadbetter.com. We've got academies where we've got over 20 academies around the world, and our main one is down here at Champions Gate in Orlando. We've got them in Naples. We've got PGA National. So we have a number of academies, one up in New Jersey. Lovely places like Italy, so people can go over there and get a lesson. So we're far and wide, shall we say? And if people say davidleadbetter.com, and there's all the information on there.
Great. So we'll put that in the show notes. And thanks again, David. And as we say here at Breaking Par, until we meet again, try to keep it in the short grass.
Absolutely. Thanks, Bernard. Enjoyed it. Thank you.
All right. Take care. Bye bye.